Hey, good day to you. This is Todd. I am just a regular dude walking in the Word. Thank you for watching as we are going through the book of Matthew right now. We're in chapter 4 and we're talking about the testing of Jesus. This is the third session we're doing on the testing of Jesus. We talked about the first 2 times Jesus was tested. Today we're talking about the final time Jesus is tested. And after this, the devil's going to be like, I give up. I'm going someplace else. Let me read today from Matthew chapter 4, verses 8 through 11, okay? It says this, "Again the devil took him to a very high mountain and showed him all of the kingdoms of the world and their splendor. All this I will give you, he said, if you will bow down and worship me. Jesus said to him, Away from me, Satan, for it is written, Worship the Lord your God and serve him only. Then the devil left him, and the angels came and attended him." All right, just some notes I had on this. This time the devil does not quote scripture. He simply takes Jesus to a high mountain and shows him the kingdoms of the world. Satan says he will give it to Jesus if he will worship him. And we know that Satan is the ruler of the world, okay? In verse 10, Jesus finally says, "Away with you, Satan." He then quotes Deuteronomy 6:13 to 14. Okay, sometimes when you're reading through the Bible, there you'll have a footnote, and it'll show you where this passage comes from in the Old Testament. And I encourage you, if you don't have a Bible like that, get one that has those footnotes. So then you can go and trace it back, like, oh, it says that. But I'm giving it to you here too. Deuteronomy 6:13 to 14, and it says, "You shall worship God alone." If you read Deuteronomy 8:2, it talks about the Israelites tested for 40 years. They failed. All right? Jesus was then tested for 40 days, and he passed. In verse 11, the devil left him, and the angels came and ministered to him. All right? Now, let's talk about lessons we can learn from the testing. I have 5 lessons we can learn from the testing. Okay? And again, I will try and have them on the YouTube notes on the bottom here, down below me here, if you're watching on YouTube. If you're watching on Instagram or something else, then might not have it. You just have to listen and write down real quick. But these are lessons from the testing of Jesus. First of all, God will allow you to be tested. We saw that in verse 1, that God would allow you to be tested. All right, He led him into the wilderness to be tested, okay? He allowed Job to be tested. The whole book of Job relates to that. And the second thing, you will be tested in your weakness. And we saw that in the first temptation where Jesus was tested in the height of his hunger. After 40 days of not eating, his body would be crying out for starvation, like, I'm so hungry, So the body would be reacting that way. And that's when the devil is testing him, okay? The devil will love to test you in your weakness, not in your strength, okay? If I have an issue with pornography, he's going to test me with my issue of pornography, okay? If I don't have an issue with pornography, and he's not going to test me with that, because well, big deal, all right? So he will test you in your weakness, all right? The third thing, know the scripture. And that's how Jesus defeated him all the time, is he knew the scripture, okay? And when the devil came with him with scripture, he knew the correct meaning of that scripture in another scripture. The fourth thing, know the context of the scripture. Everybody that you run into, they can quote some scripture, and they can surely quote it out of context, and then they can quote stuff that's not scripture. They'll quote all kinds of stuff like, God helps those who help themselves. And you're like, well, where did you get that from? Okay, that's not scripture at all. All right, so you need to know the scripture. You need to know the context of the scripture. All right, and then the last thing is to know your enemy. Jesus knew the devil, and he knew what his tricks were, and he knew what he would be up to, and so he was prepared for that. All right. Now, I'm not saying we sing songs to the enemy and spend all this time studying the enemy. No, but you need to be familiar with the enemy. All right, I choose to spend my time primarily focused on God and the study of his word. All right, and then I spend a little bit of time knowing about the enemy. And it's basically what I know about the enemy is what God says about the enemy, what God says about the devil. All right. So that concludes our sessions on the temptation of Jesus. I thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow as we continue going through the book of Matthew. Lord's blessing to you. I'll see you then.